Birmingham, England, April the 26th, 2023. In the early hours of the morning, teenager Terrell Boyce and two of his friends are in a taxi in the King's Heath area of the city. They're heading to a house party. But as the taxi drives up the high street, 17-year-old Boyce makes a decision that will change the entire course of his life.
You know, I've been called an abusive woman, I've been called all these things, but I didn't ever think I'd be called a mum to a murderer.
He asks the driver to stop. Boyce gets out of the taxi. He's spotted a distinctive electric bike and, in the tragic events that follow, stabs a local man, 33-year-old Ronique Thomas, to death. For Boyce's mum, Sherrell Dillion, now a successful model who appeared with her son on Channel 4's documentary series Benefit Street, the news that he had murdered a man left her devastated. Now Sherrell, a former body double for Beyoncé, who has modelled on catwalks in London, Paris and Milan, talks about the events leading up to that night. She tells us why she believes her son turned into a killer and shares her horror of both what he did and the sentence he was given. Sherrell explains why she thinks her son began carrying a knife and what she believes must be done to stop knife crime.
I'm a mum that believes in you do the crime, you do the time. There's no love like a mother's love, no matter what, you know, and I just want to let people know that I don't condone my son's behaviour. I never have condoned any of his behaviours, hence why I try to always get the help to nip certain things in the bud.
So how did a dispute over an electric bike end up with one man being stabbed to death? And how does a mother come to terms with her son being a murderer?
I have to be there for him. It doesn't mean that I'm supporting his behaviour, but I'm supporting my child and just making sure as well, letting the other parents know that yes, he's done wrong, but he does come from a decent mother and a decent family. I would just like to just apologise to the other mum. You know, it's two mums that have lost their children, and I really am so sorry.
Terrell Boyce was born in 2005 and grew up with his mother, Sherrell Dillion, on James Turner Street in a poverty-stricken area of Winson Green, Birmingham, a road made famous by the Channel 4 documentary series Benefit Street. Sherrell had lost her first baby when she was 16, and her son was born 3 years later. She endured domestic violence, which she believes had a profound effect on her son as a young boy, and from the age of 3, she parented him as a single mum.
Before Terrell, I was pregnant, so again, when I was 16, I lost my first child. So for me, being a parent has never been easy, you know, but it's something that I've always not let my past define me and tried to do the best as I can as a parent. But it was a struggle, especially because I was traumatized, I was hurt, and trying to deal with my own emotions and feelings and bruises and stuff. So being a single mum as a teenager was very hard and traumatic. So Terrell was born into a lot of trauma, but as a kid he was very, you know, funny, loving, caring, protective, and at the same time was just dealing with his own trauma that he had witnessed, you know, that sometimes got in the way of his behaviour, his learning.
Determined to make a better life for herself, Sherrell took a range of jobs, including in a takeaway to make ends meet. In 2014, she appeared on the Benefit Street series as a hard-working single mum with dreams of becoming a catwalk model. But her young son's behaviour was increasingly difficult, and he was displaying behavioural problems at school, throwing chairs when he was unable to control his temper.
Not only did he go mainstream, I also made him do homeschooling, because again, not every school was equipped to handle him, so I wanted to make sure that he got the best support wherever he went. I even sent him to London to come to school over here, to live with my auntie, just so that he could get away from Birmingham. What made me go to parenting class was I just wanted to try everything, because I thought, wonder if it is my parenting. Why? Terrell's misbehaving, but he had witnessed a lot, hence why he behaved a certain way. And I tried things so many different ways, like, okay, I'm a black woman, so I tried things the black way, you know. I beat my children, we punished them. I tried things, you know, okay, the Caucasian way, in a sense, where we speak to them softly or don't ground them as we saw it in our eyes, you know, no offense to anybody. Going to parenting class and trying different ways, you know. I even watched Super Nanny, where I would put Terrell or, you know, nieces or nephews on the step for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on their age at the time.
Alongside her own efforts, Sherrell also hoped that social workers would be able to help, but she found a high turnover of staff often made the problems worse.
I was happy to have social workers in my life because I thought I need the help, but the fact that these social workers would be in our life for 10 weeks and then disappear, and then we'd have to wait a few months before we got another social worker. And it's like every social worker we had to relive our story, our past. And not only was it draining, it made Terrell lose trust within people, because he needed someone that he could be a confidant to, you know, someone that he could rely on, not just myself. I also took Terrell to counselling. Me and Terrell done counselling for 4 years, twice a week for nearly 4 hours a week. They diagnosed him with ADHD and emotional detachment. And, you know, they wanted to, you know, I'm not a medication type of person, so I'm a God-fearing woman, so everything that I encountered or we were going through, we'll take it to God in prayer. So I would always try and pray or just talk to God and help, you know, ask him, can you deliver us through, you know, this situation.
Worried that the high levels of crime in her area would affect Boyce, Sherrell moved to another district.
You know, I've moved from what we will call the ghetto, you know, to a dominant white area to try and also give him a different life. You know, I've tried everything.
But by the age of 17, Boyce had fallen out with his mother, been convicted of grievous bodily harm, GBH, and following that conviction had spent time in care.
He wasn't speaking to me, so that was hard within itself, because I didn't have no way of getting him certain support that I wanted him to get.
Meanwhile, Sherrell continued to make the best of her life, studying for a master's degree in business and modelling internationally, but she feels the shooting of a young relative was the tipping point for her son.
Terrell never used to carry a knife before. What changed within our family is when my 12-year-old nephew got shot and left him paralysed. So that led Terrell and other boys in our family wearing bulletproof dresses, you know, to keep themselves safe, because if their own 12-year-old cousin and my nephew can just get shot just for walking to the shop and wearing a blue coat, it's not safe.
In the lead up to the murder, Boyce, then aged 17, was involved in an ongoing dispute with another local man, 33-year-old Ronique Thomas, over ownership of a £4,000 electric bike. Ronique's bike had been stolen at the end of 2022, and in March 2023, when Ronique saw Boyce riding it, he challenged him. Boyce reluctantly handed over the bike, but later made threats towards Ronique, according to detectives. Then, in the early hours of April 26, 2023, Boyce and his two friends, Nathaniel Daly, 21, and Cody Stevenson, 20, were in a taxi en route to a party. They spotted the distinctive electric bike parked outside a shop. Boyce ordered the taxi driver to stop, and all three men got out. Boyce confronted Ronique and chased him down the street, stabbing him multiple times. Passers-by rushed to help Ronique, but tragically, his injuries were too severe and he died at the scene. The first Sherrell knew about the killing was when a neighbour approached her a week later.
I don't think I found out until a week after, and it was from people in my area, my neighbour, that said, I'm so sorry to hear about Terrell. It's hard as a mum to process it, hear it, to drive past the scene nearly every day. It's heartbreaking, but you know, Terrell took a life of an older man, and I know Terrell's made a big mistake, but he's still alive. where he can change his life and turn his life around and make it to heaven, or, God will forgive. I just want Terrell to, yes, he's remorseful, but within his own time, I would like him to reach out to the mum, of the victim as well, just to show his sincerely apology towards her.
Sherrell next saw her son when the case first went to court later that year. After thinking deeply about the situation, she felt it was important to support her son and continues to do so.
It was hard because for me, it was hard, but I knew that I've done a lot of things in my life, probably not to that extent, but I have to be there for him. It doesn't mean that I'm supporting his behaviour, but I'm supporting my child and just making sure as well, letting the other parents know that yes, he's done wrong, but he does come from a decent mother and a decent family. I've tried to take the positive out of the negative, and yes, he's still here.
In court, Boyce's defence team stated that he had experienced violence growing up and been constantly exposed to gang culture, with the toxic elements of violence and the availability and use of weapons. In March 2024, Boyce was sentenced to life for murder, robbery and possessing a bladed article, with a minimum term of 25 years in prison. Daly, who also joined in the chase and was carrying a knife, was sentenced to 10 years for manslaughter. Stevenson, who took the bike, received 6.5 years sentence for robbery. The length of her son's sentence came as a deep shock to Sherrell.
I'm a mum that believes in you do the crime, you do the time. However, I do feel that they've used my son as an example, in the sense of giving him 25 years, and he has to do the whole 25 before he's even eligible. Parole, very, very long time. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do no time. I was expecting, 18 years, 20 years. The fact that he had even pleaded guilty to manslaughter and they threw that out and charged him with murder, he was honest about what he had done. He didn't plan to go and kill this person. It wasn't premeditated or anything like that. The system's not built for us. I feel like they should have taken more things into consideration. Yes, I believe that he should have had a lesser sentence. They never took anything that Terrell's gone through into consideration. It was just like, yep, we're locking up this black kid, 25 years, no hope for teen killer, There's no love like a mother's love, no matter what, and I just want to let people know that I don't condone my son's behaviour. I never have condoned any of his behaviours, hence why I try to always get the help to nip certain things in the bud. I've always tried with him, and I feel like the system who's supposed to be there for us, and having all these other agencies in our life, that no one really took us really serious. But it shouldn't have to take him to be where he is now, or for him to have done what he's done, for us to have got the help. I've been called an abusive woman, I've been called all these things, but I didn't ever think I'd be called a mum to a murderer. And I don't even want to see him as a murderer. He's killed. There's serial killers out there. It's a boy that it's a child that made a mistake. And I get that people will say things, the media, people have said a lot of things, but again, these are people that don't have God in their heart, because if they did, they'll know that, forgiveness. And I hope that Terrell makes it right with God for him to be forgiven.
Sherrell is now determined to help tackle knife crime and to try and deter young people from becoming part of gang culture. According to the Ben Kinsella Trust, there has been an 80% rise in police-recorded offences involving a knife or sharp instrument in the last 10 years. More than 50,000 such offences were recorded in the year ending June 2024 in England and Wales. So what does Sherrell feel would help?
More groups, more talking about it, more organisations getting together and the police just taking them. I get that we have kitchen knives, you know what I mean, that we have to cut our bread and stuff with, so I get that we can't take away all the knives, but all these machetes, all these Rambo knives, like, where are they coming from? They've got to be coming from somewhere, you know, for these kids to get easy access. And it's not just 17-year-olds that are getting access to these knives, it's 12-year-olds. You know what I mean? I look at Terrell and think he was only 12 6 years ago. You know what I mean? 6 years was just like that. He was just born to me the other day. You know, like, you're my baby. Even though the system said 25 years, I believe in a miracle, God. So I'm hoping and praying that Terrell changes, that it can come out a bit sooner, because I'll be in my 60s when he comes out. God knows if I'll be alive when he comes out. He already knows that my grandparents aren't going to be here, or his grandparents aren't going to be here when he comes out. You know, he's got great grandmas that are still alive, so there's going to be a lot that he's going to miss out on, and not just him, the victims.
In an attempt to reduce knife crime, West Midlands Police provides weapon surrender bins across Birmingham and its suburbs. Around the UK, police forces and charities provide secure bins where anyone can anonymously dispose of knives.
I'm just trying to just bring awareness as well, just to the younger generation, and just to let them know as well, like, the system don't love you guys. Your parents do. And it's not that we're trying to stop your fun. It's not that we're being nags, or, you know, we don't want you with this friend or that friend. It's just that once the system gets hold of you, they don't love you. You know what I mean? My son's in jail now with people that don't care for him. They tell him what time to go to bed, what time they must wake up, what time, you know. But as his mum, who was telling him all these things on the outside, was a bad person, was this, you know. So to all the young children out there, I want you to listen to your mums, listen to your role models, listen to your cousins that you feel that's not in a gang doesn't mean that they're idiots, you know what I mean? They're good people trying to make a decent living out of their lives. Look up to them, you know. These postcodes, they don't love you. B19, B16, B20, none of these postcodes love you. Your parents do. When you get into these situations, it's your mum that's there. 90% of the time, it's never the dads. It's always the mums, and it's us that get the abuse. It's us that get the verbal, you know, the disrespect. I would just like to just apologise to the other mum. You know, it's two mums that have lost their children, and I really am so sorry to how it went down. I'm sorry to both families, and I just want you younger kings and queens out there to really listen to your parents, to those role models in your life, because the streets don't love you, and you'll get caught up into things, whether it's a mistake, purposely, and it changes your whole life, and not just yours but family members as well. And to the system, make a change, be there for families that are asking for the help, you know, because they've let a lot of families down. The police, do your jobs and take these knives off the streets. And most importantly, everyone find God. Find God, you know. It's not easy, but nothing worth having comes easy, because people say to me as a Christian, or you say you believe in God, look what you've gone through. I'm saying, yeah, but he gives the strongest people the hardest battles. I miss his banter, you know. Yes, he's quite cheeky, but I just miss having date nights with him, and we used to have like date nights, watching films together. I miss a lot. I miss his smile. I miss just doing little things, doing his hair, you know, because he's got hair now and he's in jail. You know, he does his own hair anyway, and he does other inmates' hairs.
Since the murder, Sherrell has received abusive phone calls.
Since this has happened, I've been getting phone calls of private numbers, people breathing down the phone heavily, saying stuff to me, but I can't change my number because that's the number that Terrell knows and, you know, remembers it. Both my kids do.
As her son continues to serve his life sentence, what are Sherrell's hopes for the future?
For him to have got all the degrees that he can do while he's in prison, because I'm just going to be left in debt now for all the degrees I've just done. So get what you can out of the system. Change your life around. As I said, change your story, change your life. The kids can't go anywhere. There's no community centres, no play schemes. There's nothing for them. You're taking everyone out of certain areas and putting them into an area where it's going to cause conflict, you know. So the system and the government as well also has a lot to play in these young deaths and these lives of these young teenagers. When, you know, all this stuff about gangs and that started coming about, and I could see that Terrell wasn't exactly in a gang, but, you know, him being a black boy wearing certain clothes, the police and the system would just associate them with a gang. So I came up with an idea called Mums Against Gangs. But again, I kind of need the support, the funding, everything to the network to be able to support me do what it is that I want to do, because I'm a woman that, as I said, I had a t-shirt that had on today that says change your story, change your life. And I feel like a lot of people need to change their stories in order for them to have a better life. If they want their life to change, they have to change certain aspects of their life. And even with myself, I've gone through a lot. And for me to have a different story, I have to change certain things.
Sherrell is keen for her son to apologise to the victim's family.
He's very apologetic, and that's why I want him to be able to reach out to at least the mum, you know, because it's two mums here that have lost their sons. But I'm always about turning my pain into a purpose, and it's just for you now to change the end result and make a life of yourself.
Best approached Birmingham City Council for comment on Sherrell's experience of the social services system. A spokesperson for Birmingham Children's Trust said, "We recognise that changes in social worker may have affected Ms Dillion's experience of children's services. Changes in social worker cannot always be prevented, particularly when families' needs change and they access support from different services. Since 2023, significant work has taken place in Birmingham to ensure families can be supported by the same professionals wherever possible. We've also worked to improve the transitions between services to minimise disruptions for families."